welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. I grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we'll be going over BlizzCon as it is very soon, kind of what it entails, what I would like to see, the main sort of points that I would guess is what's going to happen at BlizzCon for all of the WoW expansions, Classic, Wrath of the Lich King, and Retail Dragonflight. But we have the weekly news as always. We have Strunran and the Sakali Elders as our bosses for the week. Strunran can be located in the Onaran Plains, and the Sakali Elders can be located in Zaralak Caverns. The Warsong Gulch Scramble is your brawl for the week. Essentially, this is a 10v10, but there are 3 Warsong Gulch flags. You simply have to capture 10 of them in order to win the match, and it isn't the same as normal Warsong Gulch rules. You can capture a flag while they control one of your flags. Otherwise, I think this game would, the game mode would go on for maybe a bit too long. Just saying. We have Cataclysm Time Walking is your bonus event for the week. You can buy loads of reputations, you can buy mounts, you can buy many different things with this, the Time Walking badges. So hop on over to, where is it? It might be a major city, but I'm not too sure. I think it is the major cities, Orgrimmar and Stormwind, where you can purchase stuff using Time Walking badges. Storming, Raging, and Terranical are your mythic fixes for the week. Storming, there's small little vortexes, move away from them. It's really not that difficult, just move away from them, help your healer out. Raging, when they get to 30% the mobs, they do 100% increased damage, either soothe them, CC them, slow them, kite them, just don't let them hit you essentially. And Terranical, the bosses and the mobs that they spawn have increased health and damage. Please bring a talent build to accommodate this. Before we get into the main part of the episode, I would like to say a massive thank you to everyone that tunes in each and every week. As the channel is growing, it's really nice to see everyone old and new come and join in on the episodes. But I do have to ask for your support a little bit more. This podcast is not my full-time job, and I do put in as much effort as I can without having to put any sort of content behind a hidden paywall. Not a hidden paywall, a paywall. With all of this said, down below there is a link to support the show even further. From as little as $3 a month, times are very tough at this moment, and I do understand this. That extra support would allow me to get out more episodes for you guys, to put more time and resources into the podcast itself, and it allows me to essentially still have nothing behind that hidden paywall for you guys. By supporting the show, you have a chance to get a shout out or even be in one of the episodes in the future. Thank you all very much for listening, and let's get back into the episode. So BlizzCon is just around the corner, beginning of November, just over a month away. We have multiple things that they're going to look at. Now, I have seen that Chris Metzen has rejoined the Warcraft team, as it were. And I think what his main focus is going to be working on Classic, I believe. Now, with this being said, BlizzCon can hold many different things, but I think there's one thing that's guaranteed at BlizzCon, and that's always an expansion reveal. Now, this isn't really a prediction, this is kind of a guarantee. I would say 99% chance of a expansion reveal, which will be really good. I think it will be really, really good. And if they carry on with how Dragonflight was, I think that it will be absolutely amazing at the next expansion, and I can't wait to see what we go to essentially. I'm kind of guessing maybe a voidy type place, because you have a lot of stuff to do with Xalatath. You have not Galakron, the Iridikron, walking through, sorry about that. You have Iridikron walking through a, void portal, essentially. So you have multiple things that, are happening right now, and it would make sense for us to go to the void in the next expansion. So my guess is kind of, we're taking Velen's ship to that place, essentially. Now, That's all well and good, but we probably will get a release of 10.2. It's doing raid testing at the moment, and I believe that ends mid-October, like the 13th of October. So I would imagine that 10.2 is released either at BlizzCon, like the BlizzCon week, or the week after. It won't be much longer, I would imagine. This is also probably about 70%, 80% chance of that happening. I doubt it would be that much longer after BlizzCon that they'll release 10.2. They might release it a bit earlier, like before BlizzCon, which would be amazing, but I highly doubt it because they would want the focus on BlizzCon more so than like, oh my god, a patch just released and I feel bad for like not being on WoW and, you know, missing the content and that kind of thing. So I think that we'll definitely get an expansion reveal for retail World of Warcraft. I think that we'll get, with this expansion, I honestly think there'll be new classes. No, not new classes, new races. They'll add a couple more of the allied races. This will probably be something very simple. Is that all like modified versions? Kind of like they're doing with the Draenei, the Eridar, they're putting in different customization options for them. So it's kind of like a new like race, but at the same time it isn't. So you don't have to do like a new intro quest line and all of that stuff. But, you know, I think there'll be a lot of that sort of thing that's happening. I think that they will open up classes to a lot of the races, which I can kind of understand, but it kind of does feel a bit bad to do so, I'm not going to lie. I can maybe understand adding druids to certain things, maybe like a dwarf druid, considering the next patch is very emerald dreamy. You can maybe give what on a horde side could, you know, go druid, maybe like a Volpira druid, you know, anything like that. You can expand it due to the actual patch itself. They might do that in the next expansion, but honestly, the only thing that I can guarantee is a WoW expansion announcement at BlizzCon more than anything. Now, the next two World of Warcrafts are the one where it's a lot more speculation, and this is where we can get into some of the fun stuff. Wrath of the Lich King I will talk about first, as it's the most straightforward. Now, Wrath of the Lich King, with the 3 iterations of World of Warcraft, you have Retail, you have Wrath of the Lich King, and you have Classic. So each one is slowly or behind the other, essentially, as it were, in expansions-wise. You have Wrath of the Lich King, which is following the blueprint to what World of Warcraft is today, and that is, it is going through all of the expansions back to back. So my guess is that they will announce a Cataclysm Classic. Now, you guys might not like this. Some people might not like this. Some people might think, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Like, no one wants Cataclysm. It completely ruins the game. Cataclysm as a whole isn't that bad. Now, hear me out on this. Hear me out. The classes, they get some fun abilities, like Holy Power for Paladins, and you can utilize that. You get the little sliders for Boomkins, where you have your Lunar and Solar Eclipse. You get some wacky class features. And it's really cool. It's actually really interactive, all of the classes. It still has its niches and stuff as well, which is amazing. And it still has its old talent tree, although you do have to sort of activate a specialization before, like, you go into the talents, and you have to put a certain amount of talent points in before you can go into another talent tree. But it's still the same talents. The problem that people have with, like, Cataclysm, in my opinion, I could be completely wrong in this, but it's the world revamp. People love the old world of World of Warcraft. They love Stranglethorn and Booty Bay and, you know, that all being one zone rather than split in half by like a maelstrom. They like the entirety of Crossroads rather than northern and southern Crossroads. You know, they like all of that. They like the wacky sort of idea of, oh, okay, well, I've done the quest here. Now I've got to go all the way up north to, you know, South Shore to go and quest just to get an extra level. And then I can go down to Stranglethorn to start leveling because I'm not quite high enough to get the quest there. You know, they like that sort of journey that it takes them on. Whereas Cataclysm became a bit more linear in that. And I think that's where the kind of what is the word for it? The love of the game, the almost the feel of the game was taken out of it because you couldn't do stuff that you wanted to do. It's not like, oh, okay, I've got this set route, so I'm going to go to South Shore and then I'll go to Duskwood and then I'll go to like Stranglethorn. Instead, it's no, you do have to go to Duskwood and then South Shore, and then you've got to go to Stranglethorn. You can't do it any other way. I think that's what people get annoyed about. And the old quests that people became familiar with over the course of several years, actually, 2004 to about 2009, maybe 10, I think. So, yeah, several years, people got used to the quests. And suddenly it was all switched up. These quests that people knew, like, it's just gone. And it's no one really likes change. A lot of people don't like change. So there's probably a big reason why people aren't a fan of Cataclysm. But in truth, Cataclysm had some good, like, dungeons, some very good, like, class mechanics, as it were. I think people just are upset about the world revamp of it. Now, if there's some workaround with Cataclysm where they can bring in the, like, class changes, but you keep the old world and they add, like, just the extra zones like Twilight Highlands, Vashir, them sort of places, I think that it could be very good. I think that it can be a very good experience, rather than revamping the entire world. Now, obviously, you might need to revamp parts of it because Grim Batol in Wetlands is part of classic World of Warcraft. But in Cataclysm, it's turned into a dungeon and it's linked to the Twilight Highlands. So you're obviously going to have to revamp some of the world just geographically in order to accommodate this. But I think Cataclysm Classic is what is going to be on the menu for Wrath of the Lich King. People might not enjoy it, but I think that, honestly, Cataclysm and then Mists of Pandaria were very underrated expansions. Mists of Pandaria especially, I think that it is one of the better expansions in World of Warcraft, and that could be an unfavorable opinion, but I think that it is one that has earned it has earned the right to be one of the better expansions in World of Warcraft. Considering what we've gone through with Shadowlands and Battle for Azeroth, definitely much so when you look back at it. Now, Wrath, I always have a nostalgia for. I will always have a nostalgia for. It's the one expansion that I can remember playing quite a lot, and it's the sort of first memories of it. Cataclysm, I don't remember an awful lot of, and I would love to experience it again, to really get a feel for Cataclysm and how it worked, how its gameplay actually interacted, how the world felt shaken by the Cataclysm, as it were. I would be very intrigued to see Cata Classic and see where they go with this, because Cata actually has some of the better raids in World of Warcraft. It has Dragon Soul, which is very much fondly looked upon. It has Twilight, Bastion of Twilight, I think it's called. I can't remember any of the others. Firelands is a really good raid. It's got some of the best raids, actually, in World of Warcraft, I think. And I think people will be wanting to raid it. And I think the PvP is actually relatively solid in Cataclysm as well. So I'm pretty sure it's a very good expansion, but people just remember it poorly because they had several years of going through, this set leveling procedure and it all getting ripped up and revamped in this expansion. So, I think that it can be a winner, Cataclysm, thinking about it more and more. I love World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King. I love Wrath of the Lich King. I think it's very good. But I think that it's time that Wrath moves on. And I think that's what it's heading towards. Wrath of the Lich King will go into Cataclysm rather than a Wrath of the Lich King Plus. Now, speaking of Wrath of the Lich King Plus, BlizzCon has a third World of Warcraft. It has recently introduced Hardcore World of Warcraft, which is a massive massive success. It is one of the best things that they've ever done for the game, and it was a community driven thing. It was made by us players. I say us, it was made by the hardcore players that, did the add-ons and, really brought it to light via streaming, via clips, all of that stuff. And it was given its chance to actually shine on official servers by Blizzard, which is really, really cool. But that will only suffice for a while because people get bored, more bored that each time that they have to restart their character and stuff like that. Now, part of the reason that you love playing World of Warcraft Classic is the leveling. The leveling is the important thing in Classic. But when you do it 50 times after, 49 deaths, then suddenly it's like, okay, well, I'm kind of getting bored of this. I've done this 10,000 times. What can I do different? Oh, I died at level 59. So nothing I do is going to be really different. It's just at level 59. I shouldn't go into this cave. Instead, that kind of deal. I think that they'll bring out Classic Plus. I genuinely think they will add stuff to the hardcore servers plus the era servers. And I think that they'll bring out new raids. I genuinely think that they'll do that. New raids, new content, new dungeons. I think that they'll add something into Classic Era to make it Classic Plus, like a sandbox feature. So what you would have is World of Warcraft as its retail version, continuing its story as it is. You have Classic or Wrath Classic that is following the WoW retail path. And this is good because if people want to revisit a certain expansion like Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, they have the opportunity to do so with this Wrath of the Lich King and how it's following on through the expansions like retail. And then if you really want a sandbox sort of mode, you have Classic Plus. Now, what this can mean is they can add new zones potentially for higher gear, new raids, new dungeons, new questlines, a whole variety of multiple things that they have the potential of adding or taking away or, introducing into the game. They can even add new classes. Now, I don't get how they would do this because these new classes, if they added something that isn't in retail World of Warcraft, let's say a Tinkerer class, how would it work? How would it perform in raids? How do the spells interact with other wacky spells in Classic? Like Divine Intervention can stop wipe prevention, but you've got to base boss mechanics around this ability. And then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, well, the Tinkerer's got this EMP that shuts off everything that's mechanical in the world. So if you go into a town and you EMP, does everything shut off and you become hostile to this town? That kind of deal. Can it be really wacky sort of shit like that? Because that's what Classic is. It is a sandbox mode and it's a very rough first draft of what World of Warcraft is and has become. It really, really is, because Druids obviously had Innovate at 8 minutes. You had everything that wasn't viable. Feral Druids, Boomkins weren't really viable. Shadow Priests weren't really viable. They were very... They ran out of mana a lot. You have everything like Arcane Mage wasn't really viable. You have a lot of things that weren't viable, and it was slowly progressed on through expansions, and it's become what it is today, where everything has its very decent matchups and niches, but it's still weak in some areas, some more than others, that kind of deal. But yeah, I genuinely think that we'll get a Classic Plus. I think this is a very much 20% chance we'll get it. I could just be talking out my arse at this point with it. But I think that they will do something to try and push people or get some people on Classic Era actually excited to play it, because the only thing that's keeping people on Classic Era at the moment, or at least most people, is the hardcore element to it. And the people that die on hardcore and who are relatively quite attached to their character, if they made it to level 38 or 39 and they transferred over to a Classic Era server, then, that's an extra player. but they might get bored of it again. They might, after, doing Blackwing Lair and stuff, get bored, or there is the potential that they complete their character. Because in Classic, you have that opportunity in an MMO to actually complete your character and get full best in slot without having any sort of future things to look forward to. No future expansion, no future dungeons, raids, etc. You can fully get your character to the best that it possibly can. And you can do this in current expansions of World of Warcraft, but it will always be surpassed by the next raid or the next expansion or the next patch, But no, Classic Era doesn't have that. It is very much, this is what you've got right now. And I think that they will expand on that in or at BlizzCon. And I think it will be amazing if they do so, because it does need a bit of love. The most content that Classic Era has got has been made by the community, the World of Warcraft player base in hardcore. So yeah, they need to give it some love from their side of the ideas. Almost, it definitely needs to come from them, and it needs to be very fresh. And it's I think that we'll get Classic Plus. I think Cataclysm will be the next step for Wrath Classic, and I think that we will get, obviously, a expansion announcement to do with the Void, something to do with the Void, and something to do with like Xalatath and that kind of dealings. Maybe we'll see some old god stuff in there. Who knows? But it'll be fun. It'll be fun. BlizzCon is definitely one to watch, because I think this is the first BlizzCon where we've got 3 different World of Warcrafts. I think back in 2009, we have not had one World of Warcraft since 2019, like BlizzCon. 2018 was the last BlizzCon that had one World of Warcraft, which was retail World of Warcraft. And I think that was Battle for Azeroth? I'm trying to think. That might have been Legion. Holy shit, that might have actually been Legion. Oh my god, that's insane. So yeah, 2018 was the last time we had one World of Warcraft game, which was retail, and that was either in the end of Legion or the beginning of Battle for Azeroth. Since then, 2019 had Wrath Classic, or not Wrath Classic, Vanilla Classic, and then it was TBC, and then Classic Era came out sometime last year, I think, something like that. Actually, no, it was kind of there since TBC Classic, because you could copy your characters over. So I definitely think that there'll be information on all of these, and I think we'll get all of it at BlizzCon. That includes a date for 10.2 release. That includes the WoW expansion, which will be announced and given a sort of rough estimate as to when they're going to get it out, and an update on the, what is it? Not the flowchart, the leaderboard, the roadmap. That's the one. Yeah, because usual expansions go out late of next year after the BlizzCon, so usually around August at the very earliest, but usually around November time. Next year we will be in a new expansion, possibly, which will be amazing. But yeah, these are my predictions for World of Warcraft at BlizzCon, or the WoWs at BlizzCon. I think that the prospect of what can be is very exciting. I just hope that they do not let it down. They don't let any of the World of Warcrafts down. If you're either a lover of retail WoW and not classic, hopefully you get what you want. If you're a lover of classic WoW and not retail, I hope that you get what you want. I hope that everyone gets what they want at BlizzCon for their respective World of Warcrafts. For me, I enjoy every single one of them in their own way, so I'm hoping for good news on all of them. But that is it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Please check out all of the descriptions down below. We have social medias, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, all of it is happening, as well as the link to support the show is down there as well. Thank you all very much for listening, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.